Everyone here who should be here? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all. Welcome to RBKC's Licensing Subcommittee, and thank you for attending. This hearing is being live streamed. I'm Counselor Janet Evans, and I will be chairing this meeting. The committee for the hearing comprises Counselor Dory Schmetterling and Counselor Toby Benton and me. We are joined by Paul Phelan, the Council's licensing team, our legal advisor, Lindsay Lemessurier. Also with us are our committee officers, Holly Weaver, Daniela Heel, and Jerome Treherne. Before we start the hearing for this case, just a few ground rules. Please keep your microphones on mute until you are invited to speak, as only 2 microphones can be used at any one time. And please make sure your mobile phones are on silent. Thank you. The case before us today is to vary a license for the Cadogan Arms, 298 Kings Road, SW3 5UG. Now for declaration of interest. I confirm I have no declaration of interest to make regarding this item. Do the other members have any declarations to make? Councillor Schmetterling?
No declaration, Chair.
Councillor Benton?
No declarations, Chair.
Thank you, colleagues. Now for the procedure. For clarity, I'll outline the procedure of the meeting, which has already been circulated with the papers. First, the licensing officer, Mr. Phelan, will give a brief outline of the application. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Good afternoon, Chair. Present.
Thank you. Then I'll ask the applicant's legal advisor, Mr. Luke Elford, to present his submission. He will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. He's joined by his clients, Mr. Dom Jacobs and Mr. Connor Daly, who may be able to assist members should they have any questions. Please, could you all confirm your attendance? And you'll have 10 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon, councillors. I can confirm that we're all here.
Thank you. Then questions may be asked by members of the committee, the legal officer, and the police of the applicant. Next, the police, Mr. P.C. Ian Davis, will present his submission. He will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
P.C. Ian Davis, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then questions may be asked by members of the committee, the legal officer, and the applicant of the police. After this, we'll ask our legal officer, Ms. Lemessurier, to deal with any further questions she may have, and then she will lead on the draft conditions session. The list of potential conditions has been circulated to all of the parties prior to the hearing. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Finally, we will turn to the governance team to see if any issues have been raised that we need to consider. There will be no summing up today, and the meeting will end. I would like to remind everyone that the committee has read the papers, which comprises the main pack and the 2 additional submissions from the applicant that have been circulated to the parties. So there is no need to repeat their content, please. But please do draw our attention to certain points and pages. Now let's get going. Can you put a diagram on of the premises, please? Thank you. Mr. Phelan, please can you outline the case for us and advise if there's been any additional documentation received? Sorry.
Chair, members of the subcommittee, good afternoon. The matter before you today is an application by the Cadogan Pub Limited for the variation of a premises licence in respect of the Cadogan Arms, 298 Kings Road, London, SW3 5UG. The premises currently trades with a premises licence which permits the provision of late-night refreshment indoors, performance of live music indoors, playing of recorded music indoors, sale by retail of alcohol on and off the premises, and regulated entertainment for private use indoors. A list that compares the current hours and licensable activities permitted with those changes proposed by way of this variation has been included at pages 6 and 7 of the main bundle. For reference, Chair, a copy of the current premises licence is attached at Appendix A, with a copy of the variation application attached at Appendix B. The application did initially attract a representation from Matt McIlroy on behalf of RBKC Environmental Health, Noise and Nuisance. Mr McIlroy subsequently withdrew his objection following the agreement of 3 conditions with the applicant. These conditions can be found in the additional bundle supplied by the applicant at page 18 of their additional documentation. For clarity, Chair, these agreed conditions are numbered 1 to 3. This application also attracted an objection from PC Ian Davis on behalf of the Metropolitan Police on the grounds of crime and disorder and public nuisance. A copy of PC Davis's representation is attached at Appendix D. Council records indicate that 3 noise nuisance complaints were received in the preceding 24-month period. A summary of these complaints is attached at Appendix E. Council records also indicate that no temporary event notices were submitted in the preceding 12 months. There have been no comments from the Planning Department in relation to this variation, Chair. Finally, Chair, I can confirm that the following additional documentation was circulated ahead of today's hearing. There was a 47-page PDF bundle from the applicant submitted on the 5th of June and circulated to all parties on the 5th of June, and a dispersal policy that was submitted by the applicant on the 1st of May, then reshared by the police on the 9th of June and circulated to all parties on the 10th of June. You will now hear from the applicant and PCA and Ian Davis. I'm happy to provide any further clarification as required. Thank you, Chair. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Alford, will you present the applicant's case, please? And can you advise if there have been any amendments to your application?
Thank you, Councillor. No amendments at this present moment in time. A very good afternoon to you, Councillors. My name is Luke Elford. I represent the Cadogan Pub Limited. To my immediate right is Dominic Jacobs, who is the Managing Director of the company and of the whole group. And to the far right is Connor Daly, who is the Operations Manager and also the Designated Premises Supervisor for these pub premises. I'm going to start, Councillors, with some stark statistics that I want to place before you to set the backdrop to this application. As of very recently, 1 in 3 hospitality businesses are now trading at a loss. Over 1,000 public houses closed in 2024, and that looks set to be exceeded this year. In the first 3 months of 2025, 303 pubs were lost, and a further 46 pubs converted to other uses. I want the subcommittee to understand what it is like out there for businesses at the moment, because it is very important, and to set the scene for this application. I'm going to deal with my submissions, if I may, in 3 parts. First of all, I'm going to explain who the Cadogan Pub Limited are, what their pedigree is, and where they come from. Second, I'll deal with why they are exceptional to your policy. Thirdly, I will address the police objection to this application. And at the conclusion of that, Councillors, I'm going to invite you to grant this application as applied for. As you've heard, this is an application to vary my client's premises licence. It's an application that concerns the sale of alcohol only. It's not an application to increase the hours for regulated entertainment or late night refreshment. That was at my client's specific choosing. They are not a party or a high energy venue. They recognised that increasing the hours for entertainment might lend themselves towards a change in the nature of the premises, and they didn't do it. They are a pub, and a very good one at that. Interestingly, in your forthcoming statement of licensing policy, due to be published at the start of next year, you recognise pubs specifically as providing a huge benefit to community and local economy. But let me explain a little bit about who the Cadogan Pub Limited are. They are part of the JKS Group. They took the Cadogan Arms in 2021 when the pub had been closed for over 5 years. Now, the JKS Group includes a significant number of award-winning businesses, of which the Cadogan Pub Limited are one. Brands such as Gymkhana, Trishna, Bow, Brigadiers, lots of Michelin stars in there as well. They operate primarily in central London, and the Cadogan Arms is part of the Public House Group, or the Public House arm of that group. Mr. Jacobs is the managing director. It may interest you to know that Mr. Jacobs is also a director of the local Business Improvement District, which works tirelessly to improve matters in and around the King's Road and the local area. Day-to-day operations are handled by Mr. Daly. There are currently 3 pubs within the group, with hopefully more on the way. They are the Cadogan Arms, the George in Westminster, and also the Hound in Chiswick. Each venue was taken on in a state of extreme disrepair and lovingly restored to the group's exceptionally high standards. They've also, at each pub, added a wonderful food offering, and you can see that in the menus within your agenda packs. They also do a great deal of good in the community, working with charities around food poverty and also loneliness. So my client took on something that was providing absolutely no benefit to the residents of RBKC in the form of a closed public house, indeed no benefit to anyone at all, and turned it into something fantastic. And they did that in the face of huge adversity in the form of COVID and all of the headwinds that the sector faces. They are now before you asking to change their lives, not drastically, but modestly. Now, anyone in licensing knows that the Royal Borough have a midnight policy when it comes to premises. However, the policy must and does recognise that exceptions can and in certain cases should be made. This is one of those cases. Your policy is not an iron curtain, nor is it a straitjacket, and you can and may depart from it. If there ever was a premises and an applicant that justified departing from your policy, or to put it another way, for the licensing authority to place its trust in, this is the applicant. Staff are handpicked by Mr. Jacobs and trained to an exceptionally high level by Mr. Daly. The premises has policies and procedures covering just about every eventuality you could possibly think of. We haven't put them all into the bundle. Frankly, we hoped that you would thank us for not having you read hundreds and hundreds of pages. And those are robust policies and procedures. How do we know that they're robust? In the 4 years of operation, the police cannot point to a single instance of crime and disorder relating to the provision of licensable activities at this pub. If they could, it would be in the objection. That is remarkable. That is exceptional. 4 years, no instances of concern. And that is down to the high standards imposed by Mr. Jacobs and by Mr. Daly. There is no evidence before you, councillors, to suggest that, were you minded to grant this application for an additional hour, things would suddenly change. There's been no enforcement activity, and my client hasn't been picked up on for any sort of breach of conditions by the licensing authority. There have been 3 complaints in a 2-year period. And again, for a commercial premises, I'm going to suggest that this is remarkable also. That is because my client goes above and beyond. For example, there is no requirement on my client's licence that they engage licensed door supervisors, but they do so at times when they know they're going to be busy and that they may be required. My client also seeks to proactively manage its external area, and you'll see within your pack the policy in that regard. Again, remarkable. So turning to the police's objection, and why, councillors, we're going to say to you that it's not particularly helpful in your decision making today. The police's objection is essentially that you have a policy and that you should stick to that policy. And the officer has copied great swathes of your policy and placed it into his objection. But beyond that, there is little of any substance. PC Davis says that if we are allowed to open later, as sure as night is day, crime and disorder will follow. But there is no evidence of any crime and disorder currently. So how can there be any evidence that crime and disorder will surely happen if we are granted this modest extension? Any decision you make must be supported by evidence, and that is enshrined both in the Section 182 guidance and in your statement of licensing policy. So there are no observations of actual crime at this venue. The second plank of PC Davis's objection is that granting us this application will somehow open a set of floodgates, that everyone in the King's Road will come to you seeking later hours and you will be duty-bound to grant them. That is not only incorrect, it is completely at odds with both the Section 182 guidance and your statement of licensing policy, both of which rightly say that each application must be judged on their own merits. And lastly, PC Davis asks that if you do grant this application, that you only do so for a trial period of 12 months. I'm afraid, councillors, that suggestion is unlawful, and there is magistrates' court case law, which of course is not binding on you, but it is persuasive, to that effect. And that is a case called AEG Presents Limited and the London Borough of Tower Hamlets. So where does this leave us? You've got a fantastic venue that my client has brought back like a phoenix from the ashes, a venue that is faced with all of the headwinds that I outlined to you at the very beginning of this presentation, a venue that is run properly and to the highest of standards, and where no challenge has been made to those assertions, where there is no evidence that the licensing objectives have been or would be undermined, and where there is a mechanism to review the licence if problems do occur within the Licensing Act 2003, and where also you have a discretion as to your own licensing policy. In all the circumstances, councillors, I'm going to suggest to you that this is an exceptional application from an exceptional applicant and should benefit from the granting of this application. That is the end of my presentation, but if you have any questions, we should be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Councillor Schmetterling, do you have any questions?
Not at this stage, thanks.
Councillor Benton?
Not yet.
Let's just see. Of the 10s. No, but no,
the 14 non-standard timers that they've got already on their existing line.
how many of the non-standard timing events have you used this year?
We haven't made use of them this year.
How many?
None.
Oh, none, sorry. Okay. And have you used SIAs at all? Did you have any need at all for them?
Yes, we have used SIA. What we do, councillors, is we risk assess the need for SIA, and then at the times that the risk assessment indicates that we might need SIA, for example, if there was a football final or something happening locally in the vicinity, then we employ SIA in such numbers as required, but they are not a day-to-day requirement at this premises and never have been.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from our legal officer?
No, I think you've answered the questions. Obviously, you're seeking an increase in alcohol hours, but you've explained that you're not going to match the regulated entertainment or late night refreshment hours. You've explained that you've not used your non-standard timings. Just out of interest, it's not compulsory. How comes you've not run any 10s or anything to these hours? Just out of interest.
We have used the non-standard timings and temporary event notices previously. We haven't done so yet this year. There hasn't been anything that's lended itself to needing to do that.
Councillor Benton?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to ask about neighbouring businesses nearby, just to be clear about their closing times, and is it ever the case that you're a destination there for people who've, come to the end of the night somewhere else? And if you can imagine that happening with nearby establishments.
I think what you're asking, Councillor, is are we hoping to become a destination venue? And the answer is absolutely not.
Not hoping to. I'm just trying to get a sense of what it's like there. I'm not particularly familiar with the King's Road. So I'm preempting what people, what I'm not going to speak for the objector, but the idea that it might become, somewhere you go, you'd be chucked out somewhere else because of closing time. That's really all I want to get a sense of.
We're certainly not looking to be a venue that you could come to having been thrown out of anywhere else. That's not how we market ourselves at all. We are very, very high end, and that is reflected in the drinks practice and the practices and the general clientele. In terms of our reasoning for making the application, the economic headwinds is one. Also, customer demand. Quite simply, we often find ourselves having to end customers' nights prematurely. People have expressed to us that they would like to be able to stay later into the evening, and also we believe that it's going to help us in terms of dispersing people to have that extra hour and a bit to sort of wind down. And we've, if it's a concern that people are going to sort of come to us for a very, very last drink, we're happy to sort of shut the doors, as it were, when we call last orders, so not have people rushing in.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, this is just to cross all the T's and dot all the I's from our point of view. I mean, I'd also suggest that, we are all of us on this panel democratically elected. We do know what the economic headwinds are like in our wards, and do appreciate that, but we're here just for the licensing aims.
Councillor Schmetterling?
Thanks. Thank you. Just wanted to ask about the sort of the residential environment. What is above the pub? First, that's the first thing. Is that residential or belongs to the pub?
There's a residence above the pub, yes.
Right. Because I know next to it there's no residential there, but when you come to, especially late at night, with the extended hours, what measures would you take to make sure that the noise stays at a reasonable level with dispersal and all that sort of thing?
So there are various measures employed in terms of dispersal. I think the first thing that I would point out is that no single resident has objected to this application, and were there any problems, you would have expected that to be the case. We use a mixture of verbal and non-verbal messaging to remind customers that although the King's Road is predominantly commercial, there are residences off the King's Road. We encourage customers to use the toilet facilities. We offer drinking water throughout sort of drinking up time. And the verbal messaging will come from staff wishing people a good night. We also direct people to public transport, and also, if needs be, other forms of transport as well.
Thank you. Because obviously on the side street opposite looks residential, and of course across the road it's residential, although it's above commercial premises. I just want to take this opportunity of saying to people who do think they have a problem, they should object or register their complaint at the time, because right now we've had, as you said, 2 or 3 over a long time. So if there's anybody who has a complaint, please register it at the time. Otherwise we have no evidence as a problem. Thank you.
I just wanted to know, your kitchen closes at 10, so do you have snacks available if people come in drunk and need to eat something, crisps or something?
Yeah, we do have a sort of crisps and nuts and things, but it would not satisfy the definition of a substantial meal,
Right.
if that's what you're driving at. The kitchen closes at 10 o'clock.
No, I just wanted to know that there's food if someone's drunk, for health reasons. Okay, So now we will go on. Do the police have any questions?
Yes, Chair, I've got a few questions.
Okay, and then you'll present as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Chair, applicant, what is the venue capacity?
If it was to be all standing, it would be 150, but it is predominantly laid out to tables and chairs as seen in the plans that you can see on your screen there. How many covers? So, and in terms of covers, it's 65 seated covers on the ground floor and a further 50 in the other room.
Thank you. Is there any reason why no pre-app was sought in relation to this application?
Forgive us, we didn't engage with you in terms of pre-app because, quite frankly, we've not had any problems with crime and disorder. We didn't feel that it was particularly necessary. I do know that Mr. Jacobs has had various discussions in the bid and locally about making this application. So there was some pre-application dialogue, but no, we didn't engage in a specific pre-application process. We didn't feel it was necessary.
Okay. And, yeah, well, there's no tens in relation. What engagement have you done with local residents? Obviously, Stanley Ward, you've got Carlisle Square that's directly behind the actual venue. From that perspective, you've got Mullery, Mallard Street, Old Church Street.
I would say that our resident engagement is very good, and that's borne out by the fact that there are no resident objections to this application. Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Daly speak to residents frequently. Indeed, Mr. Jacobs had a meeting with a local resident just yesterday, and Mr. Jacobs also sits on the board of the local business improvement district that is there specifically trying to drive up standards in the area as a whole. So there is a good deal of engagement with local residents. And of course, we have a direct line for anyone to contact us in the event of any problems, whether they come from our premises or otherwise.
But in relation to the application, there's no supporting residents in your submission. Am I right in saying that, or have I missed it?
We haven't gone around canvassing for support letters. We could have done. There is a good deal of support for this application from our customer base, but equally there are no objections to this application from any local residents whatsoever.
I'd just like to refer you to pages, Appendix E, pages 37 and 38. Unfortunately, noise and nuisance aren't here, but there have been a few complaints in relation to the premises. That's the reason for my question around that issue. It would have been useful to have kind of seen some sort of reflection in the Stanley Ward in the local community to establish that issue.
I'm terribly sorry, PC Davis. This is 3 complaints in 2 years, one every 240 odd days. It's not a huge amount of complaints. We do engage with our neighbours. Mr. Jacobs just yesterday met with, who did you meet? Robert Dunn. Met with Robert Dunn, who's the head of the Residents Association on Mallard Street. That dialogue is already there, and that is borne out in the fact that there are no objections from residents.
In relation to managing intoxicated patrons, obstruction the pavement, if we refer to condition 17, which is page, bear with me, go to page, committee, page 19, condition 17. It clearly states in relation to the premises licence holder shall ensure that any patrons drinking or smoking outside the premises shall do so in an orderly manner and supervised by staff so as to ensure that there is no public nuisance and obstruction of the public highway. I'm mindful that you use SIA and there's an internal risk assessment process, but it also mentions staff. Do the actual staff, as in bar staff, get involved in that dispersal for patrons?
Yes, you heard me say quite clearly that we use verbal and non-verbal communication, the verbal being from staff.
Are they trained in conflict management at all? So if there is an individual that is kind of going to be resistant, because obviously SIA are trained in conflict resolution and conflict management, have they got specific training to deal with potentially unruly patrons?
Our staff are trained in all matters, welfare and vulnerability, conflict management, crime scene preservation, the licensing objectives. It's a huge amount of training that goes on, and it's regularly refreshed as well. There have been no instances where there have had to be conflicts resolved. If there had been, we would have expected to see them in your paperwork. There are none. There should be no questions being asked about the level of staff training. It's of a higher standard. This is not a review application. We're simply asking for an extra hour of alcohol sales, and there's been no crime and disorder generated by this premises.
And furtherly, I think the question has been answered. So what are your intentions around the NSTs? Because with like a 1 o'clock, 1:30, I mean, we're talking about 2:30 for a dispersal, 12 of these per year. Is there an intention to kind of use them moving forward?
Those non-standard timings have always been for special events or when we've needed them. There's no firm plans to use them specifically for anything or to indeed change the nature of the premises. They're on the licence, and we have made use of them in the past, and again, there's no evidence that they've ever been a problem.
Thank you, Chair. That's my questions over. Thank you.
Thank you. Now will you carry on, please, and present your submission? Please turn on your camera if you like, and your mic. We have your camera, so.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I'll thank you very much for the application and the committee for hearing the police position in relation to this. I will make my submission quite to the point. We all know that the King's Road is a well-renowned location and an iconic location in relation to that. And I'm mindful of the committee and their extensive knowledge around the policy and closing hours. I think the key aspect in relation to this police objection is all around the fact that the prevention aspect of the potential for crime and disorder and public nuisance in relation to extending hours beyond midnight. And the decision around the 1 year, and thank you very much, Mr. Alford, in relation to his position for the time-limited position offering, is to allow this application to kind of see how it manages throughout that period, that year, because hence we haven't seen the temporary event notices, we haven't seen the evidence other than what's been offered, the fact that there are no instances in relation to nuisance. There has been a couple of incidents in the last 4 years, but they were managed by the premises, but hence they weren't submitted in the application, which is true. So hence, I think in summary, and I'll keep this quite short, in relation to the police will be directed by the committee in relation to what their decisions are. And hence, if there is an application that's granted to be proportionally supported by the conditions that have been submitted. And that is my submission. Thank you.
Now, any questions from the committee? Councillor Schmetterling?
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Davis, I mean, the thing is that there haven't been any complaints other than these that we've got on record. And in one case, it looks like the noise wasn't winding down anyway. So why do you feel that it could be a major problem?
With that location and the fact that it will be opening longer than any other premises, and I'm mindful of the business improvement district and the energy that's going in via the local businesses, it's a case of, as I said, the prevention aspect, but the potential for a lot of people turning up. A lot of people go there before. I've seen the issues around, even though the licence is much later with Raffles, which is closed at the moment. We've had a lot of people hanging around Porton Square, and the comparative would be Carlisle Square. For 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning is quite late for a venue like that in that location. Hence my position around the opportunity for them to prove themselves within a calendar year. With the NST and other temporary event notices that they could to support their application, because as I said, it's requested in perpetuity.
Do you think if things were really bad, if we just granted sort of as is, but subject to the conditions that also you've suggested, if things got really bad, we could always call it in for review, couldn't we?
Yes.
I mean, it's a hassle, but it could be done.
Yeah, of course it can be done, yes. And there's also the engagement processes in relation with the premises and, knowing Mr. Alford and the reputation that Don brings in relation to the premises. But I'm just mindful of how the public react in relation to venues and their behaviour patterns, irrespective, especially on this borough. But that's through my experience.
Councillor Benton.
Thank you, Chair. Just really to hammer home on this, what is there to suggest that an extra hour of alcohol sales will result in more crime, or is likely to result in more crime? It's really that simple. If you could just answer that any way you feel is appropriate.
I think the aspect is the retention of drinking in a specific location. From obviously, there's not going to be any substantive meals from 10 o'clock onwards. You've got vulnerability aspects in relation to females, excessive alcohol consumption onto a main road. So there's a propensity to. It's not to say that it's not going to happen. As I said, the key objective is the prevention aspect of it. Hence, we have the policy, which is your discretion. Hence, the stepped approach to establish whether that extra hour and a half would work.
Thank you.
Have you been called out to the Cadogan Arms?
Personally, no.
Have there been fights there?
No, not significant. There's, as I said, there's a couple of issues, but they've managed it. From our records, it would be unfair to have submitted the two issues that happened in the last 4 years, and primarily there's an issue around thefts, which is tantamount to a lot of premises on the borough full stop. But I mean, they are good operators. When I requested the dispersal notice, it was submitted. Hence, I forwarded it as an indicator of how well they run their shop. So from that perspective, I've got no concerns. But I think there's an aspect of how a destination location on the King's Road like that, and the propensity for people to turn up and to be retained in that area into the small hours is quite unique, and that's my only concern.
Okay, so basically what you're discussing are hypothetical and potential.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions now from our legal officer?
No questions from me, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the applicant?
No, Chair.
We'll now go through, open for discussion, the draft conditions. You all have a copy, of
Everybody
course.
got a copy?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, this is obviously a variation, and obviously it's for 1 extra hour for on and off sales of alcohol, so obviously we have to confine any potential conditions to that. We can't go above and beyond. So if we just go through the conditions, obviously not 1 to 23. Number 24, you've already agreed with noise and nuisance. Number 25, are you okay with the additional red wording?
Can I just make a brief point on conditions? That
Yeah.
The starting point, councillors, is to grant the application. If you don't feel that you can grant the application, that's when you start looking at conditions. It's not grant the application with conditions being the starting point.
Well, the conditions will promote the licensing objectives, and obviously if you're going to have an extra hour, then obviously anything would need to be supporting the licensing objectives in that regard.
Yes, but it's also not a review of the premises licence.
Correct.
In terms of 25, I have no problem with that at all times.
Thank you.
The premises are open.
Number 26. Just a minor tweak.
I see no issue with that.
Thank you. Right, number 27. Obviously, PC Davis has requested 2 ISIA. You've suggested risk assessed, and in red I've just put in the council's preferred wording for risk assessed. Are you okay with the 2 red wording paragraphs?
No, I'm not.
You're okay with them?
No.
No, why is that?
A number of reasons. What is regularly reviewed?
Well, whenever you're going to have an event, I think you said you used SAI for events.
No, we conduct a risk assessment ongoing of
Okay.
what
Well,
trade
what would you
is like.
suggest then? What would you suggest as suitable wording?
We'd prefer our wording.
Right, well, it's a lot shorter and less concern. The wording in blue.
Yeah. So, engage them such times and in such numbers as the... So what does this mean in effect?
Well, I don't think there's much
No.
difference, to be perfectly honest with you, but you're querying the use of the word regularly. I mean, obviously, it's down to you to decide how regularly to do it. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't have an objection to keeping a record of the SIA staff. when
We don't
used.
currently need to keep a record of our SIA licensed door supervisors. I just query why we suddenly would need to because of the extra hour of alcohol. What is it that means the licensing objectives are not going to be promoted?
Well, I think you could argue either way. I mean, obviously, you're going beyond midnight as well, and you're saying that you should be granted, and obviously, you're
But
wanting to have
we
the
already
exception to the
operate
policy.
until after midnight.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
We already operate until after midnight.
For your, yes, on Wednesdays to Saturdays, correct? Sorry, just beg your pardon. Saturdays you close at midnight. Your licensable activities end at midnight, and so your closing time's midnight. Is that correct? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So licensable activities end by midnight currently.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is your issue? Are you thinking that you'll be held to a standard that is too restrictive? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what you're getting at here.
I think the issue is this, councillors, is that this is an application for variation.
Right.
The starting point is to grant with no modifications whatsoever. If you can't do that, then conditions come into play. These conditions have largely been suggested by the police in an objection that's not substantiated with any evidence. It's a if you grant it, please slap these conditions onto the licence. And we do have some real difficulty with that. This is not open season on my client's premises licence. This is a very well thought through application. And if we thought that to promote the licensing objectives in this additional hour that we were asking for, we needed to do these things, we would have offered them.
But to be fair, we're not going for the police's condition. We're not suggesting that you must have 2 SIA with body-worn videos. All we're doing is just tweaking your suggested condition, which is you will do a risk assessment for when you need SIA staff. We're not imposing that on you, so it's pretty much what you've offered anyway.
Yeah.
I don't really see the major difference, apart from just arguing over the word regularly.
I think that the word regularly and full written risk assessment makes the condition difficult and unenforceable. But if the committee are minded to grant the licence and they prefer that wording, then so be it. I query whether it is appropriate and proportionate for us
Where
to
does it say
have to record the names and details of door supervisors.
written for us, yeah. But it doesn't say full-blown.
It says full written risk assessment. Okay, thank you for that. Well, the councillors will make a decision on that. Okay. Number 28, there shall be no admittance or readmittance after midnight apart from smokers. You have suggested the premises licence holder shall not permit entry to the premises by new customers in the 30 minutes after last order that have been announced. I just wanted to know what everyone's thoughts on that were. PC Davis?
Yeah, in relation to my submitted suggestion, but I'll be guided by the committee in relation to that.
Okay. Sorry, just bear with me. So if you get your extension on the Wednesday to Saturday to 1 o'clock for alcohol sales, and, for example, you were going to use one of your NSTs, that could take it to 2 o'clock. So your last orders would be at 2 o'clock, presumably, or just before 2 o'clock? So wind back half an hour, is that what you're saying?
Effectively, we'll call last orders 30 minutes before the premises closes. What we don't want to do is have this artificial cut-off at midnight. Moreover, what about people who go out to make a telephone call? What about people who go out to vape?
Would that not be subject to condition 34, though? The
Well,
exception?
According to this, there would be no admittance or readmittance to the premises, apart from people who wish to smoke.
But if it was subject to condition 34?
Well, condition 34 is a completely different kettle of fish, and if you want me to address that now, we can come on to that. But why are we suddenly faced with a limit of 10 smokers from 11 p.m. when we've had no limit previously, and there's no evidence that
Because because you're going to be having alcohol later, I guess.
and our smokers have never caused any problems. As I said, this is not a review of the premises licence.
Yeah, look, you're asking for another hour of serving alcohol. You're expecting that being open until 1 is different to being open until 12. Being open until 12 is different to being open until 11. It's going to come with conditions.
Okay. We can come back to number 28 when we get to number 34. Right, number 29. No, there's already an existing condition 22, which says, just bear with me. Existing condition 22, customers shall not be permitted to take drinks outside the premises after 11 p.m. daily, which I think is effectively what PC Davis has suggested anyway, which duplicates 22. And then you've suggested no customers shall be permitted to drink outside after 2300 daily and shall not be permitted to take drinks into any external drinking areas. I suppose what I was trying to think was any noise or nuisance that's caused after 11, because obviously you're not saying there shan't be customers outside, you're just saying there shan't be customers with drinks outside. So I just wanted to explore no customers outside after 11, just to reduce noise.
We're always going to have some customers outside after 11 because there are going to be people who want to, for example, smoke.
That subject does say subject to 34.
Make a telephone call, vape, or just step out for a breath of fresh air. What I'm saying is that there is no evidence before you, councillors, that makes this condition appropriate or proportionate.
Yeah, obviously that my proposed condition said subject to condition 34, which was a maximum of 10 outside at any time. So 10 outside after 11, what's your view on that?
It's less than 10% of the capacity of the premises. I think we'd want slightly more. But again, there's no evidence that our customers are causing problems from 11 p.m. onwards currently.
But you don't stay open to the later hour at the moment, though, do you?
We stay open till midnight, and we have in the past utilised the ability to stay open even later, both through temporary event notices and through the non-standard timing.
When did you do, I thought you hadn't used non-standard timings recently. When did you last do 10s and non-standard timings then?
I'm told that the last 2 temporary event notices we submitted with the bank holidays in May. It may be actually a better question for the licensing officer who should have a record of all of these instances.
Paul, can you just be looking at that in the meantime? For Paul or the police, would you have any non-standard timings as well if you don't have that to hand?
I can have a look into that now, Chair. Bear with
Thank
me.
you. Can you? Right, Paul, far away.
Sorry, I'm still waiting for the
sorry,
database. No, apologies.
I don't understand your issue with not having 10 outside. You're asking for a later license. It'll limit your problems with residents. It will limit noise. It has nothing to do with your historical that you haven't had any problems. Why do you need 25 people outside after 11 o'clock? How many? 25? Yeah, we're asking for 10.
We're asking for 10. I don't think you haven't mentioned 25, have you? That number hasn't come up.
No. So
Sorry, I've not said 25.
How many do you want outside?
Councillor, we historically we've not had a limit on it.
I understand
and it's
that.
Not been
I'm
a problem.
asking why you need. We're trying to create an atmosphere where you can stay open later, but no effect on the residents. It's a win-win here, so I don't know what your issue is with that. It's not a big deal. Fewer and fewer people are smoking, so why can't you control, just have 10 people outside?
Fewer people are smoking, more and more people are vaping. I think we would prefer it left to our control. In any event, we've not had this restriction before, and if it is going to apply, it should apply after midnight, not after 11 p.m.
So you would prefer it applying after midnight, not?
After midnight, and I think if we are going to limit the number, then it should be 10% of our capacity, which is 15.
Okay, the councillors can take a view of that. Bear with me, please, while I just sort my papers out. PC Davies, do you have any comments on that?
No comment.
Thank you. Right, moving on to number 30, drinking up. Can I have your comments on that, please?
It's a matter of law.
Sorry?
It's a matter of law. We close 30 minutes after.
After end of licensable activities?
Yes.
Okay. So you're happy with that one then?
Well,
It's on most of our licences.
again, councils should not be imposing standard conditions, and just because it's on most licences does not necessarily mean it should be on this one. It should only be on this one if it's appropriate and proportionate for the promotion of the licensing objectives in this case.
Okay, we'll take a view on that, but if your licensable activities end at 1:30 and your closing time's at 2, that will tie in with that condition anyway.
Again, we say it's a matter of law, and that the Section 182 guidance says that you shouldn't duplicate.
Could I just add to this that the residents don't read the law, the residents read what's in the licence, and it's in your own interest to provide assurance for the residents. And I'm sure, I know we know we haven't had a million objections, but do you not think it's a good thing that you, if you like, take the political step and show willing? Because if you say that's the law, that's okay, isn't it?
Councillor, if it's what it says on the licence, then the residents have the comfort on the licence that it says opening hours, and there is in bold on the licence the closing time. We don't think that having a condition is in any way, shape or form necessary.
But it also requires customers to be off the premises 30 minutes after the end of permitted hours as well. Not just to stop licensable activities, to be off the premises 30 minutes.
Well, but that's what closing is. That's customers off the premises.
Yeah,
It's
well, it's
closing
belts and
time.
braces then, isn't it? Number 31. Can I have your comments on that, please?
If the committee turn to my letter to PC Davis, we do explain our response to all of these conditions. Again, this is not a review of the premises licence. There are no residential objections. Why suddenly should we be forced to hold meetings twice yearly?
Because you're opening for an extra hour and it may cause issues, and they can just be aired with residents if necessary. And if there's no need for a residents' meeting, then there doesn't need to be one.
We're not prepared to do that.
He's not prepared to do that. Okay, we'll take a view on that. Thank you. What about once a year?
No, we're quite happy with how we liaise with residents. There is good and ongoing dialogue. Creating meetings for the sake of it is not appropriate or proportionate in the circumstances.
Okay, the councillors will take a view on that.
Yeah, just to add, it's not for the sake of it. It does say if necessary, but we'll have to take a view now.
Number 32, I'm guessing you're going to object to that as well?
We should not be placing conditions onto premises licences purely for the sake of it. There is no evidence before you to suggest that there is any issue with the staff training as it currently stands. And what this condition will do, councillors, is create additional bureaucracy for the premises when there are no issues currently.
Staff training condition, though, is there? So I'm just looking at the existing licence. I can't see an existing requirement to train staff. Okay. I think in relation to number 33, you've explained that the kitchen closes at 10, so you can't provide substantial, so I understand that.
We can't provide substantial meals, nor is it even within the application to increase the hours for late night refreshment. So you couldn't do that even if you wanted to.
Understood. Right, number 34, I think you said you were happy with 15. I think that's where we left it at.
After midnight.
After midnight. Thank you. Right, councillors or PC Davis, do you have any other questions or suggested conditions?
No further questions, no further suggested conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors? I'm done, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to know, I mean, you're saying that you don't like certain things conditioned, which are very much part of running a bar or an entertainment business in the Royal Borough. How do you propose that you are going to engage, and when you will engage with the residents?
Part and parcel of running a public house is engaging with your customers and engaging with local residents. My client engages with local residents on a day-to-day basis. People who come into the pub, people who use the pub, people who stop by for a chat, people who telephone the pub for whatever reason. Beyond that, my client also sits on the Business Improvement District and also has meetings with residents and residents associations as recently as yesterday on an ad hoc basis. We just don't feel it's appropriate and proportionate to make it a criminal offence not to have a residents' meeting. No,
We didn't
councillors,
say it has a criminal offence.
each and every condition that you place on the premises licence becomes a specific criminal offence.
We do understand that, but that's not what the condition says. The condition gives you the option of not having it if you engage properly with the community. Maybe you want to read it again.
The condition doesn't give us the option of not having one. The condition gives the residents the option of not having one.
Additionally, business improvement districts are there to look after the interests of the businesses, not of the residents. However much they occasionally overlap, that's not what they're there for.
Residents attend the Business Improvement District meetings. Residents associations attend the Business Improvement District meetings.
Do they vote?
No.
So, for example, the meeting yesterday, how did you organize it? Who came in? And what form did it take? Did you take any notes?
Don, would you explain to the councillor how the meeting yesterday came about and what form it took?
You're talking to a councillor who's been in entertainment industry for 25 years, so I understand how bars run. And I just really have a problem that you're so contentious when we're trying to work out how you can get along in a neighborhood pub in Chelsea. And we're trying to come to a very good solution when you have the police who made an objection. So quite frankly, I think we're all astounded that you are being contentious about something like this, because the residents' meetings we usually have in almost every license now, and the residents can turn it down, and most of them do, and you probably won't have them, but we like to show that the premises is engaging with the area. And I just really am having a problem with you taking this contentiously, and Mr. Jacobs not interested. I've never seen anything like this, to be honest, especially when the police are objecting.
Councillor, I'm terribly sorry if you've taken what I'm saying to be an effrontery to you, or that I've in some way criticised your track record or history of working in hospitality. I have no knowledge of that whatsoever. You're as new to me as I am to you. What I'm doing, councillor, is representing my client and my client's interests. And in that regard, we made this variation application. We believe that the conditions that are already attached to the licence promote the licensing objectives, and that things won't change if we're afforded this additional hour. And we're almost being offered a fait accompli that if we accept a load of additional conditions, you'll be minded to grant the application. What we're saying to you, councillors, is that you can have the faith to grant this application without imposing a load of conditions. Now, a variation, and you have a learned legal advisor, and they will explain this. There are three options: grant the application, grant it modified to such an extent that allows you to grant it, or reject it. But what shouldn't be happening is applicants going into the variation process coming out worse off than when they went in. And I'll let Mr. Jacobs explain how he works with local residents.
Hey, thank you very much. In terms of how I work with local residents, we, as mentioned, I sit on the board of the local business improvement district. So we discuss and liaise with the, and they regularly sit in the board meetings. So any concerns are raised with them, and you know, yes, I understand that they're there to represent businesses, but we also work in with them. Of course, it's in everybody's benefit that we're working with the residents and businesses alike. So there's a lot of engagement. They sit and observe every board meeting, and of course there's conversations, and we listen to all of their concerns and share many of them as businesses operating. So that's one way that I personally manage my communication with the residents 4 times a year, not just the 1 or 2 that's represented on this condition. Secondly, I've got a very good relationship with many councillors through the work and just through my job as an operator in the borough. And so the meeting yesterday with the resident was arranged by Councillor Josh Rennell, who introduced me as a community-minded publican, a business operator, and arranged to meet with the resident the following week. How did the meeting take place? Like most meetings in pubs, I had a pint with him, and we discussed the concerns that he had about anything that might be going on in the area. Things which we talked about were rubbish in the borough, which is something that is a big concern of mine as well, and we talked about things that would make their life better. They asked if we could jet wash our pavement, which is something that we were already planning to do and has been done, I believe, today or tomorrow in any case, and the various other things where I could assure him that the work that we do both on the bid and as a venue that we're carrying out. I think when, you know, the other things that we do are hosting charity events as a business. We host lunches and coffee meets for local people, predominantly elderly people who find themselves lonely in the borough. So we do these at different times in the year. This year we did it just after Christmas and hosted a lunch in partnership with the Kensington and Chelsea Association. These are the kind of things that we do, and I see as my responsibility as a publican and operator in the borough, and something that we're very proud of as a business. To put it on as a condition is a concern for me, because it's another thing that we have to organise. It's another level of administration, which, you know, we already do a lot, and I feel that what we do and have done to date is why we're a successful operator and why we continue to be successful and why we've had no objections from the residents. And that is why I don't believe this is proportionate. And it also adds something to our licence that, had we not gone into the process, we wouldn't have had.
Well, now you're explaining yourself, because if you engage through the local councillors, that helps, because they know the issues and you know the issues. Then we did not see, and now we are seeing, that there is communication, and that's what's important. I know it's a local pub, and you know the area, you know the residents, and they know you. So I know Councillor Schmetterling wanted to add something.
Just a couple of things on these. If you are, as you said, engaging possibly 3 or 4 times a year, if I understood you correctly, that's great. So therefore, I don't understand what the big bureaucracy is if, let's say, we take out the residents bit, which the police officers put forward, but just sticks the RAs and councillors. You set up one email group, and then once or twice a year, you send this email out 2 weeks before a planned date. I don't see what the big deal is. So that's the one point. The second one is the extra hour. You say it's only an extra hour, although it looks like an hour and a half in one case or 2 cases. It's not going from 9 to 10 p.m. It's going to after midnight, and I think that's the much bigger impact that we're talking about. It's not just an hour, and I think it's important to bear this in mind in this case, and why we're looking at these conditions, or the police are looking at these conditions as well. Now, it's really important. It's not just any old hour, it's when it is. Thanks.
No.
No, thank you. As I said earlier on, this is a variation, and any conditions that the councillors are minded to attach will be appropriate and proportionate to what has been applied for. Thank you.
Thank you. Licensing officer, anything to add?
Nothing to add, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And our governance officers, anything to add?
Nothing from us. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Well, we've reached the end of this meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. The committee now has all the information needed, and we will retire to make our decision in private session. We will not announce the decision today. Instead, the hearing will be closed. A summary determination will be sent to the parties within 5 working days of today's hearing, and a full decision will follow as soon as possible thereafter. The time limit for appealing the decision will not commence until the full decision has been sent to the parties. Thank you for attending, and thank you for your contributions. Thank you to the committee.